Hello everyone! Let's get acquainted with the program. We will start with the interface and navigation. You can turn the camera left and right by holding down Alt and by using the left mouse button. You can zoom the camera in and out by holding down Alt and by using the right mouse button. And by holding down Alt and by using the middle mouse button, you can move the camera up and down. Let's move on to the top part of the interface. We have a menu in this panel. If you switch to modeling, everything will change here. As this panel directly depends on what you have selected in this tab. Here we have shelf that includes everything you need for modeling. Let's create a sphere. We can also create a sphere in the Create menu. If you left-click on Polygon Primitives, you will find all the primitives there. Let's delete the sphere. Go to Create, Polygon, Primitives, and select Sphere. There is also another method. Delete this sphere. If you press the spacebar, the marking menu will pop up. Here is Create as well. Click Create, Polygon Primitives, Sphere. Let's delete this sphere. And the last technique to create a sphere is to hold down Shift and right-click. So we have learned to create objects, and now we need to learn to manipulate them. There are tools for this on the left. If you hover over them, a tooltip window pops up. Each tool has its own hotkeys. For instance, if you press Q, the Select tool will get enabled, and you will be able to select objects. The next key is W that enables the Move tool. We can select an object as well, but now the axes have appeared, so we can move the object along them. You can move the sphere either by dragging one of the axes or by dragging its center. Next is the Rotate tool, activated by the E key. We can manipulate the object by dragging either the center or the axis. And the last one is the Scale tool, activated by the R key. You can also scale the object by dragging either the axis or center. So we have covered the tools to manipulate objects. To reset the object to default settings, you can press Ctrl-Z. You can also switch to the transform, rotate, and the scale coordinates of the object. If you hold down the left mouse button, drag down and press 0 and enter, and on scale press 1 and enter, the object will return to its original position. Now let's try to work with several objects at the same time. We can create another object from here by left-clicking the cube icon. Let's move it to see it. You can also duplicate an existing object. Let's select the sphere and press Ctrl-D. We have duplicated the object. You can duplicate several objects as well. For example, select the cube, then holding down Shift, left-click the sphere to select it. Both objects are selected now and press Ctrl-Z. You can see both objects have been duplicated. You can also duplicate an object by repeating the last operation. For example, let's select the cube, press Ctrl-D, and press E to enable the Rotate tool. Next, drag the axis and press Shift-D. The cube is now duplicated, preserving its previous coordinates. Next, we can group the objects we have created. Let's say select the cube. Holding down Shift, select the other objects and press the Ctrl-G hotkey. We can observe and organize our workflow in Outliner. You can find it on the left in this panel. Click on Outliner. All our objects and our group that we have just created are here. If you click the plus sign, you will see all objects in this group. You can rename the objects here, and you can select a separate object of this group as well as the entire group. You can change the object's name by double-clicking it. And now, let's move on to the objects. We will take a closer look at what they consist of and what polygons and components are. Let's organize the scene first. Delete all the objects and create a new one. Close Outliner. Select all objects by dragging, holding the left mouse button and press Delete. So let's create an object. Holding down Shift, right-click to create a cube. Each object has its own settings. Let's switch to Polycube 1. You can find them on the right. Let's select Width. By holding down Ctrl and the middle mouse button and by dragging to the left and right, you can adjust the width of the object. If you select Height, by holding down Ctrl and the middle mouse button, you can adjust the height of the object. Below, we can add edge loops. Now let's move on to the components. Holding down the right mouse button, you can open the marking menu with the object's components. There are vertices, faces, and edges. Vertices store texture information, and edges are the places where two vertices meet. As a result, a face is formed, which is a polygon. So how can you select components? If you switch to the vertex mode, you can click on a vertex or holding down Shift, left-click to select a few of them. You can also hold the left mouse button and move the cursor over vertices to select several at once. Another option is to use the lasso tool. Hold down the left mouse button and select the area you need in order to select a group of vertices. It is very convenient to select vertices with the Paint Selection tool. Take the Paint Selection tool and mark the necessary vertices. With the Paint Selection tool, you can select not only vertices but edges and faces as well. So how can you select edge loops or faces or vertices? Switch to the Edge mode. Double-click on an edge and select Edge Loop. Similarly, you can select a vertex itself. If you double-click on a vertex, all vertices will be selected. And if you select one vertex, holding down Shift double-click the left mouse button, you will select vertex loops. The situation with faces is the same. One click to select one face. If you double-click on the same face, the entire object will be selected. If you click once, select the face and hold down Shift and double-click the left mouse button, loop will be selected. Now let's have a look at Modeling Toolkit. You can find it on the right. So let's focus on the tools we are going to use and learn about and on the correct topology. So let's go from the top down. If you click on Multi-Components, three modes will be activated, that is vertices, edges, and faces. This means that we can select all of them at the same time. Below, there are selection options. The first is Pick. You can select an object with a left click. The second is Drag. That is, you can select an object and drag from it. The third is Tweak Marquee. You can select an object and with the middle mouse button, move everything like this. Next, there are Highlight Back Faces and Highlight Nearest Component. Let me demonstrate to you how this works. Let's switch to Pick, enter the Objects mode, and create a plane. Holding down Shift, right-click to create it. Move it up so that it is visible. Let's remove subdivisions as we do not need them here. Return to the modeling toolkit and select the plane. Let's scale it up a bit to see it better. Let's switch to the edge mode, right-click and select edge. As you can see, the top edge is highlighted. The cursor remains almost in the middle and each edge becomes highlighted. If you uncheck this checkbox, no edge will be highlighted and you will need to hover over to select them. Next is camera-based selection. Let's delete the plane. Let's select a cube, enter the face mode, and turn on camera-based selection. And let's select this area. Done. Rotate the object. You will see that nothing has been selected on the other side. Let's get back. Turn camera-based selection off. Let's select the area once again, rotate, and see that the faces from the other side are selected now. Next, there is symmetry. Let's enter the object mode and set symmetry to, say, Object X. Right-click to enter the vertex mode. You can see that vertices are highlighted on both the right and left sides. In the symmetry mode, you can work with components and symmetrically build models. Let's reset it to default settings, Ctrl-Z, and turn off symmetry. Next, there is selection constraint. Let's pick one of these options. Edge ring, for example. You see that elements are highlighted. If you click, the highlighted area will be selected right away. This is how edge loop works. Select loop, click on it, and it is selected. Next goes shell. Hover over the objects, and it selects everything. And the last is UV edge loop. It highlights the edge loop with UV map. The idea of what selection constraint is responsible for should be clear now. Let's turn it off and proceed to transform constraint. There are two options here, edge slide and surface slide. Select edge slide. Now let's select an edge on the object to see how it works. Select an edge, hold down the middle mouse button and drag to the right or left. You can also select several edges with a double click and slide them with the middle mouse button. Then we have soft selection. But let's turn off constraint first and return the object to default settings with Ctrl-Z. Click on the arrow and open soft selection. It is disabled right now. Let's select an edge to see how soft selection works. Check the soft selection box. You can see the area soft selection will impact. If you press B and drag to the left and right, you will increase the effect of the tool. Soft selection works with all components. Let's close it. Next, there is the Mesh tab. It contains Combine, Separate, Smooth, and Boolean. So the first is Combine. To show how Combine works, let's duplicate the object. Select the cube and press Ctrl-D. Now we have two objects. Select both of them. Select the first one, holding down Shift, select the second one, and click on Combine. Now we have one solid object. And next to it, there is Separate. With it, you can separate the objects. Next comes Smooth. Let's select an object and click Smooth. The Smooth settings pop up. By holding down the middle mouse button and dragging to the left and right, you can increase and decrease the number of divisions. Before applying Smooth to an object, check out the Maya smoothing preview. it is enabled with the 3 key. And by pressing the 1 key, you exit smooth mode. And the last one on this list is Boolean. Let's select this cube. Put it somewhere like this. Select the first cube, then the second one, and click Boolean. The settings pop up. Drag to the right with the middle mouse button, and a Boolean operation has been performed, that is, one object has been cut with another. Boolean operations are not intended for objects that are designed for smooth. If we press 3 key, we will get a lot of flaws and artifacts on the smooth model. There are extra edges and vertices. You will have to clean the object and merge the vertices together. Let's now proceed to the Components tab and delete this cube since we no longer need it. Let's create a new one. Holding down Shift, right-click, create a cube and scale it up a bit. First, there is Extrude. Select the face and click Extrude. Its settings pop up. In thickness, drag to the left or right holding down the middle mouse button to perform Extrude. Next are Local Translate Z and Offset. If you hold down Ctrl and drag to the left and right, holding down the middle mouse button, the operations you perform will be smoother. Then, you can increase the number of divisions. Next, we have Keep Faces Together option. To see what it is for, let's select a face here and here. Click Extrude. Increase thickness by dragging up and decrease offset. Turn off Keep Faces Together. You can turn it on and off by dragging with the middle mouse button to the right or left. And you can see that something has changed. We need to adjust offset a bit more. And now, faces are separate. You can also apply Extrude the following way. Holding down Shift, select a face with a right-click, then Shift, right-click and select Extrude Face. The same settings pop up. And then you can extrude. Let's move on to the Bevel menu. Let's delete this object and create a new one. Hold down Shift, right-click and create a cube. Let's increase it a little. How does Bevel work? If you press the 3 key when smoothing, the cube turns into a sphere. Switch to the Edge mode, right-click Edge, and select all the edges with the left mouse button and click Bevel. Bevel has the same setting window as Extrude. Let's adjust the object by using the middle mouse button. Now, after adjusting it a bit, switch to the Object mode, press 3, and you can see that the object maintains its shape when smoothing. Next, there's Bridge. To see how Bridge works, we need to create another object. Delete this one. Let's create another cube. Hold down Shift and right-click to create a cube. Press Ctrl D to duplicate it. Now we need to combine them. Select the second cube and click Combine. Let's scale them up a bit to see them better. Select the object, switch to the Face mode, select the faces here and press Delete. And how does Bridge work? We have faces deleted, and this is a solid object. If you click Bridge, there will be a junction created between the two cubes. And here's a window with the settings which you can adjust with the middle mouse button and see what happens. Here you can add divisions. In this case, taper doesn't change anything. There's twist. Play around with the settings to see what they change. There is the Add Divisions component next to Bridge. Let's see how it works. Enter the object mode, select Objects and click Add Division. And we have actually added divisions to the object. There are settings for it as well. You can decrease or increase the number of divisions or even remove what has been added. Now let's take a look at Tools and at everything in this tab. Let's cover all the tools using this object as an example. Select the object and click Multi-Cut. Such indicators showing where you can place vertices pop up. If you hold down Ctrl, the indicator will show where you can create an edge loop. Let's press 3 first to see how the model looks after smoothing. Return everything back by pressing 1. Hold down Ctrl to see where you can place an edge loop. Left-click to place it. Let's create a few more. Now press 3 to see what has changed. We have placed stiffening ribs to keep the shape unchanged. What do we need this for? All objects that we work with are designed for smooth. That's why we need everything we model to maintain its shape. Let's see how else multi-cut can work. We can manually build polygons, place vertices with the left click and build polygons where we need them. Having completed the process, if the result suits you, press Enter. And next there is Target Weld. How does it work and what do you need it for? Let's see. Zoom in, hover the cursor over the vertex and holding down the left mouse button, drag it to the other vertex and merge them together. You can merge edges together as well if you need it. Let's delete this object and create another one. Hold down Shift, right-click and create a cube. If you press F, you will focus on the object, getting a little closer to it. We still need to cover Connect and Quad Draw. What are those? Let's select Connect. Connect allows you to place an edge exactly in the middle. Press Enter. You can also select Connect, place an edge, and before pressing Enter, drag to the left or right with the middle mouse button to set the necessary number of edge loops. Then press Enter. Now let's take a look at Quad Draw. But before enabling it, we need to enter the object mode and click on this magnet icon. Make the selected object live. Now you can no longer select the object. We need this to create polygons. And now select Quad Draw. Let's zoom in a little and place a vertex with a left click. By pressing the Shift key, you will make the face indicator appear. Then, left-click. So we have created the first polygon. Next, I want to take a closer look at how this works. If you hover over edge and hold down the Tab key, you can drag a whole face with the left mouse button. So, hold down Tab, left-click on the edge and drag the face. Hover over a vertex, hold Tab and drag it with the left mouse button. As a result, you will gradually create a new topology. Hold down Tab, hover over an edge and drag it. If two edges are separated, hover over one vertex and drag it to another. They will merge automatically. Holding down Ctrl, you can create edge loop. If you want to delete an element, hold down Ctrl-Shift and delete it with a left click. Quad Draw is used for topology and retopology. As on the example of our character, I used Quad Draw completely for retopologizing. And a few words about topology. I have 3 examples here. If you enable the grid, to do this, click here. You can see that 2 of them have triangles, and 1 of them completely consists of quads. As you can see, the upper one is already smoothed, it has support edges, and is complete. Using the lower one as an example, I want to demonstrate to you how to achieve this and why you need to avoid triangles. If you select the lower object and press 3 to smooth it, let's disable the grid to see better. You will see strange jams where the triangles are and not a smooth shape. If you enable the grid, you will see that only one vertex holds all this information and deformation. But even in this situation, we have managed to resolve this issue in the example above by adding support edges. This helped us remove the jams, but only because the triangles are on the plane. If the triangles were on a curved surface and were not so even, we would not be able to get away with this. Let's take a look at the next example. Press 3 to smooth and see what happens in this case. Let's disable the grid. As you can see, there are 2 identical objects. This one has triangles, the other one has quads, and you can see the difference straight away after smoothing. In this case, we can see that it lacks edge loops to maintain its shape. Let's add edge loops and see whether it helps. Let's isolate our object from the scene. When you have selected it, click Isolate Select. And now it is isolated from the scene. Let's add edge loops. I have shown you how to do it before. Right-click to enter the edge mode. If you select Edge Ring, you can add bevel edge by holding down Shift and right-clicking. Use the middle button to adjust the distance. We can also switch to the face mode, select faces by holding down Shift and select bevel with the right mouse button. Let's continue. Enter the edge mode, select edge ring and holding down Shift, right-click to select bevel. Adjust the distance with the middle mouse button. Holding down Shift, first right-click to enter the object mode. Then, holding down Shift, right-click and select Multi-Cut. Holding down Ctrl and using the left mouse button, place support edges. Enter the object mode. Press 3 to smooth it and see what we have got. You may have noticed that I have used Toolkit to perform these operations on the object earlier, while I'm using the marking menu now. Everything from Toolkit I told you about can be found in the marking menu. Just select objects, Right-click and the menu, tools, and the settings pop up. Also, if you switch to the vertex mode, hold down Shift and right-click, you will see the settings and tools that work only in the vertex mode. If you enter the face mode by holding Shift and by right-clicking, there will be the settings that work only in the face mode, and so on. And now, let's try to apply everything we have learned on such an example. Open Channel Box. You can see there are layers at the bottom. Let's select the objects and click Create a new layer and assign selected objects. The selected objects are on the layer now. So we have two objects in the scene. But they were made differently though. One of them is a solid object, the other is assembled from different ones. In this lesson, we will recreate the latter. Let's hide this layer by unchecking this box here. Then right-click holding down Shift to create a cube. Now let's resize it following the reference. Go to Toolkit, select Connect, left-click and place Edge Loops. Press Enter. Now select Multi-Cut. Right-click holding Shift and select Multi-Cut, place Edge Loop. Let's create a cylinder now. Enter the object mode, right-click holding Shift and select Cylinder. Switch to Channel Box, then go to the cylinder settings and set the subdivision axis parameter to 8. We're cutting down the number of polygons. Let's scale the cylinder down and move it here to see it. Now let's enable the layer in order to see the reference and understand what to do further. Let's scale down the cube following the reference. About like this. Now let's add edge loops like on the example here. Select the object, press Shift, right-click, and select Multi-Cut. Press Ctrl to fix the edge loop. Press Ctrl together with Shift. Now the edge loop is fixed. Place it. Repeat the operation here. Now we need to place the cylinder in the center. How can you do it? Switch to the object mode, select the cylinder, hold down V, and drag it with the middle mouse button to the right place. And then it snaps. Let's adjust its scale a little, like in the example. And we're nearing the end of the lesson since we have almost completed the Lego object. Your home assignment will be to make something out of these objects. Thank you all.